It's not, that's not the right answer. Celestina, yeah, but no, please. No, no, no. Rebels no pun. No, no, no. Yes, Miss Sheena Owusu. So LA answered that question correctly. That's fine. Please can we move to the next question? Yes, Miss Sheena Owusu. Miss Sheena Owusu. So the next question is, mention any upcoming SP Ghana events that you are excited about. Mention any upcoming SP events that you are excited about. SP Social tomorrow. No, please. Yes, it's the energy, social, and networking. Energy, social, and networking. That's right. So, okay, energy, social, network. That's right. You've all done well. This was just to relieve some tension. Okay, thank you so much. Can we move to the next slide? Okay, so this is the overview of the program outline. We'll start with an opening address, followed by the introduction of our speakers, and then we dive into the main dialogue. And you'll also be given the opportunity to ask questions. We'll also take feedback on our next meeting. We'll take the vote of thanks from a special person. So let's move on to our opening address by Engineer Derek Luce. He's the Ghana SP Head Section. Please let's welcome Engineer Derek Luce. If you are here, kindly unmute yourself and deliver the opening address.
Yep. Afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes, we can.
Thank you, everyone who's made the time to be here with us this afternoon. I know it's a Friday. I know all the holidays are about to start and all that, but some of us have taken the time out, and then we have come to this webinar to try and listen to our specialist and then our generalist. It's actually a very interesting topic because I know that there's been quotes in the past about people saying jack of all trades is master of none. And then when you go further on that quotation, it goes on to say that but it's always has a lot of information from that point. So what we want to learn today is the difference. Both of them have their advantages and disadvantages, but we have seasoned speakers who are going to talk us through all of it. So I hope that you take your time, you listen, and then you ask the right questions today, because we are all going to be here to try and answer, try and help each other as much as possible. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat box. Wait for us to finish. You ask the questions, or you can ask the question, and as Donna would be moderating us today, and then we have a very successful program. I'm actually looking forward to it. Fifi, I'm waiting to hear what Fifi has to say, and then our own powerful Gilbert. So let's have a wonderful webinar, and then we'll be in the background listening in. And then if there's any questions that comes along as well, we're going to try and then answer that as we go on. And as it was said in the last questions, we have our social networking event tomorrow. Please make the time to come. The students, we have a lot of sponsorship slots still available for the professional members, and then the senior members. Come out with a family. It's not just us. It's going to be us, our friends, and our families. The kids are going to be there. We have a setup for the kids and everyone. Try and show up tomorrow. Let's meet each other. I think because of COVID and all that, we've not had a physical event in a very long time. So this would be a good time for us all to meet, to dine, and have a fun time before we go into the festive season, to be with our families and all that. So see you guys all tomorrow. And then I'm actually looking forward to this special webinar that we are on today. So Donna, over to you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Derek. That was such a wonderful opening address from you. Now, please can you move to the next slide? Yeah. So join me in welcoming our first speaker, Engineer Fifi Otu. He's a senior gas and facilities engineer at Petroleum Commission. Again, we also have Engineer Gilbert Asase. He's the CEO of Gergric Assets and Integrity Management. Today, we are exploring two exciting parts. That is the world of a specialist and the journalist. Let's hear from our speakers about their unique journeys. So, to Engineer Gilbert, can you share a bit about your journey and how being a journalist has influenced your career so far? Engineer Gilbert.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Am I loud and clear now? Good afternoon, everybody. All protocols observed. And I believe this will be a very exciting dialogue. And so we'll just jump straight to what it is. So I think a unique way to look at this is if you want to follow my journey as Gilbert, being an engineer and all the way through now, probably running a firm, one would say that I've always not been a generalist. So let's look at maybe a time sequence of how I started my career. And I started, first of all, as a process engineer in Tamale Refinery. And it's important to note that during that period, one of the few things going through the career was trying to understand what maybe I was looking out for. Okay, I'm trying to make this a discussion so that we can have the students or young professionals look at this whilst trying to choose their career path. Being a process engineer in a refinery it was quite clean and clear that I felt this wasn't how I was envisaging life to be. Maybe going always to the field, climbing ladders, even though I enjoyed being a process engineer. And so quickly, what I envisioned my life to be was probably wearing some coats, leaving the house with my wife, maybe tying the knots. And so, I mean, it was quick for me to understand at that moment that I didn't want to be actually in the field. And so quickly, I tried to further my education and did a master's in petroleum engineering, even though my bachelor's were chemical engineering. And after coming back, then I was a petroleum engineer in Petroleum Commission. Being there, working with field development and production, and then moved on to reservoir development, and then finally living as a reservoir engineer. So even in that part, you would see that it was more from a broader base, and then I was getting to almost a point where I was going to be a specialist, which is reservoir engineering, which is more focused on a specific subject matter area. Then the next thing was a big jump from reservoir engineer then to a very big generalist role, which was local content manager of one of the major field development projects in Ghana. And as general as it could be, is being a local content manager, which then meant that you were going to basically try to work to make sure that a huge quota of the project in terms of value of contracts awarded. So now we are talking about supply chain. We start talking about workforce and workforce development. So now we are talking about training, development, and then we are also talking about capacity building. And then you need to start discussing strategies in contracts to be able to, as it be, try to influence and reserve certain services to Ghanaians or local indigenous companies because the project was in Ghana. So if you look at this, this is somebody developing a skill set in engineering and then already moving to a very big generalist role where you need very multiple disciplines and knowledge about various different areas. Can you really get in-depth knowledge about supply chain, about human resource or HR services, about projects, and how do you mix this? Then the biggest leap came to move on to running a firm where now you are actually faced with finance issues, you are faced with the supply chain, you are faced with capacity development, and then what I've termed the biggest experience of all, trying to manage people to be able to achieve what you want to do. Now, if you look at the turn of events, then you understand that being a generalist, okay, is required mostly in certain roles and may be needed when maybe you move up the ladder. To be able to, be beneficial or be able to run things across various different disciplines, it's important to get sometimes good knowledge from the various disciplines. So it's, if you become multidisciplinary, you can be able to speak to affairs, you can be able to manage more different areas to get objectives and results. So looking through my career, I would say that the interest whilst I was even working as an engineer and developing sort of a specialist capability in reservoir engineer, the interest to be able to reach out for knowledge from other areas with the exposures that I've got were able to make me, let me say, a better generalist as it is now. So the advantages, if I want to summarize it, of being a generalist is that you stand in a position to be able to coordinate different people of specialist careers or specialist areas to be able to achieve a broader goal. So if you are a reservoir engineer, by the time that they are giving you a managerial position, you probably would need a little bit of a generalist sort of idea. And so it is needed, in short, if I'll share for those that are thinking of career progression, the higher you go, the broader knowledge you need. And then you may need to develop a specialist skill, but the higher you go the career ladder and you are more involved in broader decision making or multi-variable decisions from various areas, then you need to be able to build skill sets which would make you more of a generalist. I hope this gives you some good introduction into the topic. Thanks. Donna, over to you.
Donna is on mute. Donna, can you unmute yourself, please?
Okay, thank you so much, Engineer Gilbert. Thank you so much. I'd like to ask Engineer Fifi this question. So what led you to specialize and how has that shaped your career so far? Engineer Fifi. Please, is Engineer Fifi on the line?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes, great, sorry. Can you repeat your question again? I may have missed it a bit.
Yeah, so I asked what led you to specialize and how has that shaped your career?
Oh, okay. During when Gilbert was talking, he happens to be my senior in terms of like maybe in terms of in the industry, and you could hear that he actually started in a specialized area, and then as he progressed, he actually moved into the generalized area. So the whole point is that basically some careers are developed to be like that. Unless you actually you own a company that from day one after school, you become the CEO or you become the general manager or the managing director. But basically you are looking at starting your career from a specialized or in a small area, then probably you build your career going forward. So I happen to have done my national service at GNPC from the I spent some time with Talo before I finally joined Petroleum Commission. So one point that you also notice that even in your specialized area, you sometimes have a situation of switching from one special area to another special area. And if based on who the personality, you'll be able to gain knowledge in all these kind of areas. So the career path has actually driven that kind of situation now.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, as we explore the benefits of being a journalist versus the journalist, let's hear from Engineer Fifi. Please, what do you see as your biggest advantage of your chosen path? What do you see as your biggest advantage of your chosen path?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
So the point is that it's great to be a specialist, like having an area of specialty where you actually become a mastermind, a master in that kind of area. Because you know, sometimes, as they say, you cannot be a master of all. Actually, you have to be a master of in one area. And so this has really contributed because you sometimes happen to find yourself in certain environment whereby, especially from where I work, you will be required to provide certain advice for or make some comments or contribute to some policy drafting. So if you are looking at drafting a policy for facilities or for production facilities, then there's no other person than the production facility engineer or the facility engineer, right? So this is the kind of advantage I believe it has brought to me, even as I work as a facility person now. So those other special areas that I also have been to actually contributed to what I'm doing nowadays, because the fact is that if you are in this special area, sometimes even after your career, it will help you even in areas of consultancy. If you want to be, if you have this special, if you have knowledge in this kind of special area.
Okay, so I would like you to give a specific example where specialized knowledge has made a significant impact on your career.
So yes, so I talked about the area where I provide advice in terms of what I do. So this where I work, I'm not the only person actually in that specialty. We have a couple of engineers in that kind of area. And therefore, any kind of advice that will have to come from that side would have to go through those of us in that area.
Okay.
Or will have to come from those of us in that area. So there are so many documentation or advice that I've provided in my area of expertise since I've been with the Petroleum Commission.
Okay, Engineer Fifi, thank you so much for your insights. Now, I'd like to pose the same question to Engineer Gilbert Asasi. Please, what do you see as your biggest advantage of your chosen path, and how has that adaptability, leadership opportunities, and broader problem-solving abilities contributed to your success?
Thank you, Donna. I think I'd like to take it from to flow from Fifi's statements. The specialists would be looking at subject matter expertise, and they will look at the depth of issues. And then when you move to maybe a generalist, then you are looking at broader aspects of what could be discussed. So to make this quite maybe easy to understand from a career perspective and also from a young professional perspective, if you look at your progress as maybe a reservoir, maybe a specialist reservoir engineer, and you are being given a role to be a manager, at the point of being a manager, you need to be able to adapt. You need to be able to get different skill sets. You now be talking about budgets for your department. You now be talking about people management. You'll be talking about a simple ability to be able to I'll say to do, and then to be able to do, you have very different broader problems that you need to resolve. So I think the biggest advantage of being a generalist is having multi-variable skill sets to different forms of problem. If you take a direct specialist, a specialist is, I wouldn't say for the better for the use of a better word, yeah, they will be narrow focused, and so you would see specialists maybe failing to see things in the broader context of decision making, and it is not bad. But the advantage is that in life, mostly you want things to be done, and if you want things to be done, the advantage is that you want to collaborate with different people to work. So I'll use a simple building. If you are a project manager of a building, you need to talk to the architect. You need to be able to talk to the contractor that is constructing. You need to talk to the steel benders. Whereas when you talk to the architect is good at drawing the building. But if you look at the project manager, he's talking about how do I get funds for the project, okay? And the ability to go to seek for funds in itself is an interesting skill set that you need to show and get. So the advantages of being a general, truth be told, is sometimes getting the job done, managing people to get the job. If we want to look at it, is you would invariably be seen as a problem solver. So the biggest advantage of being a generalist is the ability to collaborate with people, be able to adapt to solutions, and I dare say sometimes give inspiration to the specialists. So you will need the specialist to give you information, to make decisions that will give the whole organization or the whole project a result. That's where I would say there's a good advantage on Donna.
Okay, thank you so much. Now let's dive into the specific of becoming a specialist or a journalist. Engineer Fifi, can you share with us how can one become a specialist or a journalist?
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. So continuing from the conversation, you see, we are talking of a subject being a master in one area, one specific area, right? So from the academic point of view, you can become a specialist from the academic point of view, building your career after school. So when you go to school, whatever you want to do, based on what you did, you can be a drilling engineer, reservoir engineer, whatever you studied. That is a step. Then the next step is looking at your career itself. When you are recruited to a company, what do they ask you to do? So you studied, let's say you studied reservoir engineer, and then you are recruited as a reservoir engineer as well. Then you kind of concentrate in that area. But there are also instances where you may have studied, let's say, drilling engineering, then a reservoir opportunity comes. You have no other option than actually to toe that line. But actually, from that point is, as I said, the career. Sometimes your academic will help. Other times too, you may have done a different program, but the system will change your career or what you're actually looking at from that point. So that is just from the specialist point of view then. So which means wherever you start from, you continue from that aspect, you build the experience from that aspect and you continue in that direction. From the journalist point of view, as Gilbert stated, the small I can say is that it has to do more with, I think, combining different, bringing people together. So you tend to be like, you have to actually build it on the job. But there are also some management courses that one can learn. But as I said, that is just the educational part. The most important aspect is to continue to build it in the area of your career or during your career.
Okay. I'd like you to give us some. Are there any roles that are typically considered as specialist roles?
So mostly from top of my head, most of the industry roles from the beginning level are actually specialists. And just as Gilbert stated, is when you are getting to the management role that you tend to now have to open up to receive or to have to look at so many things. So consider a service company like this, that SLB, Halliburton, Baker, the likes of those people. They can pick you up as someone in charge of job it or wireline or whatever it is. Their aspect is to train you to build that capacity in that side as a wireline or a job it expert or whatever area you actually pick. But you realize that we have, for example, you have a country manager of SLB who has different scope of services under him or her. So you see that when you look at the career path of that person, the person just didn't come in to become a country manager. The person started from somewhere in one small scope, but built on it, as well as gaining additional skills and knowledge. And that's what got the person there. So most of the industry starting career positions, that's the beginning. Most of them are specialist areas.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, Engineer Gilbert, can you also share with us how can one become a specialist or a generalist?
It's quite interesting. Do we choose to be a specialist or a generalist? I think if we take this from some of the key advantages of being a generalist, I would like to say that somebody that is predisposed to be a generalist, which has opportunity to rise because he's able to maybe understand different issues. We would say that, first of all, you need to look at what makes you choose your roles, okay? And it's important to note that how do you choose your career path? I think this is where mostly we have dilemmas as a young professional. You are starting, and then when you are progressing, you have options. But first of all, I think we need to look at what is your interest, okay? What interests you? I made a case that, I like process engineering, and I started as a process engineer, but the whole idea of going to a refinery every day, being exposed to hazards directly, wasn't something that I felt was in my interest. Then you have to probably assess your skills and your strengths, okay? There are people that have very good long-term focus on very narrowed area of discipline. There are people who cannot also stand that. Maybe after 1 hour of pouring at a document, he can't. So how do you expect this person to be looking at various reservoir models and try to be, try to run simulations upon simulations to make decisions? So you need to look at your strengths. And then I think it's also key, especially in the African, let's put this into perspective, that the job market actually also influences it. As Vicky said, you may find yourself where you are. So, I mean, if the entry-level position is for you to be a wireline site engineer, you probably have to start with a wireline site engineer. And then the education and training that you have may be able to influence. And I'll share a story so that we look at these things, because what we actually want to have is, there are various people it could be different stages of our career. I remember when I was supposed to go to university, my first offer that came was to actually do business administration in Lagos. And then, yes, I really wanted to go to Lagos. It was fashionable to be doing business administration. Then I had I would say positive peer pressure, because most of my friends from my class, from PSEC, were all going to engineering. So they were all going to tech. And at that moment, I was lucky to have a mom that actually discussed, so do you really want to go here? I spoke to a little people in industry, and then they mentioned that, okay, it may be good to actually develop a specialization before you broaden up. Okay, so I think that I'll say this from a personal point of view, that I believe that before you become a generalist, it is important to build a skill set in a very good, unique place when you start your career. And mostly entry levels, as Fifi said, do not give very generalist roles. So the path to be a generalist, albeit considering what your personal interests are, your education and training is, I believe that with time, okay, in your unique discipline that you are working in, whilst you grow, it will come to a point that your interest will be whether you want to have various knowledges from other areas, or due to your personality and due to maybe your unique situation or even the job opportunity available sometimes, you want to narrow down and have an interest. I'll span this also around leadership. It's not everybody maybe that will be a born leader, okay? And so there are people who naturally want to sit in their office and run the numbers. They want to be a top expert on an issue. They want to have huge certainty. And as a key part of being a generalist is sometimes you need to be able to deal with uncertainty. So you actually will not be very sure, but you need to lead people to deliver, and you actually maybe need to lead the specialist to deliver. So there is actually not, I would say, a clear path from where I say that you want to just be a generalist. It is advisable to grow a good level of authority in a particular area, especially in the energy sector, before you move up to be a generalist. That's where I will pick this from. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So, as experienced engineers or experienced professionals in your career areas, have you faced any misconceptions? Are there any misconceptions or hurdles that you have faced? Engineer Gilbert.
You mean as a generalist now? Well, yes. I think, how do I put this? Yes, if you are a jack of all trades, that is saying, and at the beginning you are a jack of all trades, you are sometimes you speak out of depth, and when you are in an energy industry where there is very specialized, especially oil and gas, and you quickly assume a generalist role without actually understanding what the details of issues are. Sometimes you are seen to talk out of depth. So I'll say that yes, I've had quick challenges, some challenges. I remember sometimes in Petroleum Commission, yes, you can speak and understand this is what you want to achieve, but you may not be able to buttress it because sometimes you don't have the time or you don't have the appetite to go into the details. That is why if you are becoming a generalist, it is good sometimes to have the support of specialists. So I'll mention one good friend of mine who's a very good top, I'll call him a specialist, Mark. We were in the same team. So being a generalist and he being a very good specialist, I think collaboration with your team to actually come up with good results is good. He was a very good specialist, and but we're the same team. So the generalist is able to see how we can be able to achieve this, and so he sees the need to be able to deal with a specialist. That's the way I would summarize it. But of course, if you speak generally without depth, it's a challenge in the industry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, Engineer Fifi, please can you share your insights on some of the misconceptions you've faced in your career?
I wanted to pick a bit from what Gilbert was saying, because I happen to have actually worked with Gilbert, but now when he was a specialist, but now he has jumped to be a journalist as a CEO, right? But the whole point is that, you know, sometimes some working environment actually helps one way or the other, because from the commission point of view, where you tend to have a lot of working in committees and teams work and all those kind of things, it sometimes helps to broaden your knowledge, though you are in one kind of area, be it a reservoir engineer, be it a drilling engineer, be it a facility engineer, what is it? But you tend to have more sitting in meetings with the geoscientists, the finance people, economists, the HR aspect, and because of commission, the local content people aspect as well. So sometimes one of the initial challenge you tend to have is when some of them are speaking, I mean, it becomes difficult for you to actually understand what they are saying, because you are also like a master in your area. But as time goes on a bit, because it's a teamwork and it's a committee, you'll be grabbing it gradually from your point of view. So, and the industry, we all know that it's a teamwork. So when you tend to master in one area, the funny thing is that, you see, I happen to be on a rig where there's MWD, LWD, measurement while drilling and logging while drilling, and there's a coring thing. And you can go and ask a coring guy or someone from the LWD, do you know anything about coring? No way. That is a big no. I don't really know what you're talking about. Like, so that is one kind of specialty that some people build that much, right? So based on whether you are working for a service company or an E&P, that also play a role or factor in that aspect. But being a specialist, sometimes it is good, not sometimes, it is good, but mostly I think I will actually advise other specialists to read a bit wide. You can tend to read industry news, that kind of thing, to try to upgrade yourself or try to learn from what others are saying. A typical example is like the renewables that are coming up, right? You tend to have people who are so much into the oil and gas industry that will become so difficult to at least switch a bit to understand what the renewable people are saying. But you also have people who can equally switch in that aspect.
So what you said is leading to the next question. Now, have you considered, as a specialist, have you ever considered switching roles? I mean, from a journalist to a specialist, or a specialist to a journalist?
Interesting question. But the whole thing is that I would say not really switching, but if you want to develop your career, you would actually get to a stage that you have to start thinking not for yourself alone or not in your small area, but thinking of for others in general, right? Just as Gilbert stated in the beginning, if you're a reservoir engineer, you can be thinking of just the models, the reservoir models and all those stuff. If you grow up the ladder to become something like the engineering manager or a director or something, you see that you have different people under you. Then gradually you're actually becoming that. But as we're discussing earlier, some people also want to build their career in that specific area without trying to even go up. Not necessarily, you will still go up the ladder, are not necessarily trying to be a journalist. But from my point, I believe my career path will get to the journalist. I don't know how or when it will happen, but I know it will happen.
Okay, so I'm posing the same question to Engineer Gilbert. Please, have you ever considered switching roles?
Well, I think I was specializing and then took a very bold decision to generalize. So I would say that for me, it's reverse. It's been switched already. I'm in a very generalized role now. Will I consider building some expertise in some specialized areas? Yes, I think I'll be interested in doing that, albeit maybe not in the technical sort of technical disciplines. But I mean, a typical thing would be what specialized area would I need to be able to, say, move a firm ahead? Maybe I may be interested in knowing truly some specialized knowledge about finance, some specialized knowledge about taxation. So yes, there are certain unique, I'll call domain disciplines that if it is key to what you want to do, a core part of that you'd be interested to know specialized knowledge about. It doesn't make you a specialist, but it would be good to get specialized knowledge in that particular area. And to be able to bring this more to light, I would say that if you follow some very good oil and gas companies, if they have something sometimes called accelerated development programs. And for those accelerated development programs, they do understand that they want to maybe develop a generalist, okay, quickly to a certain role to manage various disciplines. So you have a certain case where before they put you in a role, they may have you spend maybe 6 months in various departments or even 3 months in various departments trying to get specialized information or actually getting your hands dirty in what you are doing before they give you the generalist role. So invariably, I mean, seek for specialized knowledge, but I think that from where I am now, I'm a generalist. The idea is to lead people to be able to do specialized work. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so how can a specialist and a journalist stay relevant and competitive?
I think these are unique paths. They are unique paths. Even in terms of remuneration, in terms of work-life balance, in terms of personality traits and interest, being a specialist and being a generalist are very quite different paths that you choose. And it is important, I think, to say that we shouldn't, it's not possible to pitch one against each other, because there are people who have very good natural traits of leadership, problem-solving skills, stakeholder engagement, clarity of thought, and there are others who are actually very focused on trying to really solve issues. So would I be a very good research analyst pouring down into the details? No. But do I need a result from the research analyst to be able to make a decision? Yes. So in that direction, I think we should be able to encourage people to follow where their interest and passion lies. One thing about career path and growth, that opportunities do not lie openly everywhere. You may find yourself somewhere, but if ever you have the opportunity to follow your passion, it is easy to be able to grow in that passion. So we should be able to encourage specialized, those who want to take the specialist path. It plays a role in the industry. And truth be told, there are certain people who will be specialists till they retire and pick a path of consultancy. So they are needed. It is only that when it comes, and they are also remunerated very well. There are certain specialists that maybe an hour a day could be maybe $5,000 per hour, $1,000 per hour, which a generalist cannot take. But I would say, and I dare say that it is very, very important that if you truly want to move into leadership, into management, into supervision, into actually, I'll say, catering for more responsibilities, it is very important to pick breadth, short knowledge from various areas of disciplines. That makes you broaden your knowledge. And with the breadth of knowledge, you are able to stand better in those positions. Yes. But we should encourage people to be specialized. And I will also say this, that there is no CEO accreditation. The best they can give is a CEO award. But it is important that if you say, I'm GI, I'm Engineer Gilbert, maybe I'm PMP certified, these are, maybe you have your HR certifications. These give you confidence at the younger stage of your career. Okay, you are certified by that, you are certified by this. They put a stamp and endorse the skill set that you have. It gives you knowledge to grow. So once you are able to do that over the period, then you can go into the generalist role. Okay, it's more of a better, or I'll call it natural course than top, and then you specialize down. But they are anomalies. They are anomalies. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. Now to Engineer Fifi, what skills do you think will be most valuable in the future? What skills do you think will be most valuable in the future?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. So skills in area of specialty, or skills in the area of being a journalist, because as we've discussed earlier, a journalist is looking at, think of it like, if I use a normal word, it's a bit a higher position, though there are also specialists who also have higher positions, but you actually putting together different scopes, you will actually need to build some skills from that aspect in terms of actually also managing human and managing people, bringing things together. Specialists, you're looking at basically concentrating on what you are doing. And it's very important. You need to pay detailed attention as a specialist. And that's why from the earlier example, I say, normally with the service companies, if they pick you as a specialist, they will build you to the extent that even a single pin within the tool that you are looking at, you actually understand and know what you're actually dealing with. Finding root cause analysis, or undertaking root cause analysis, trying to find problems and solve problems in that aspect. All of these will actually help you in your career. But to add a bit to what Gilbert was saying earlier on, see, I'm getting some feedback. So, hello?
Hello, please, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes, so as Gilbert stated, you see, the generalist and the specialist is not a competition between themselves, right? It's a path that each one has chosen to actually undertake. And each of them comes with their benefits and their challenges.
Okay. Thank you so much, esteemed speakers. You have indeed delivered well. Now we'll take questions from the participants. If you have any question or any contribution you want to make, please text in the chat box. Or if you like to talk, I will call you to speak. It's time for questions and answers. Okay, so somebody raised a hand. Stephen,
Right, I'm here.
somebody raised a hand. Can you unmute the
Yes,
person?
they can go ahead. They can go ahead.
Hello,
Okay.
this is Atwedu. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Fifi and Gilbert have given some good insights into either being a specialist or a generalist, but I would like to add a little bit more, especially for young professionals. And like Gilbert mentioned before, I do not think you need to set your mind to the idea of being a generalist right from the beginning of your career. And I think Fifi has also mentioned that in his submission. Most of you need to think in terms of getting yourself into the position where whichever area that you find yourself in, you put in the best effort that you can, and then make yourself useful for whichever companies that you'll be working for, either for your own company or for other companies working for others. And then during the period of your career, you now have to then identify where your strengths are if you want to become a specialist. So identifying where your strengths are will help you to become a good specialist, because then you know that whichever area that you are targeting, you'll be able to make a big impact there. Now, for me, a generalist is someone who has, like Gilbert, gone through a process of being a specialist in particular area and then opening up him or herself to other areas where he or she can apply other skills to support whichever business area that they find themselves in. So I do not think it's from the beginning of your career a good idea to put in your mind that you want to be a generalist, because then it might lead you in a particular direction where you have so much information that you are not able to make good use of them properly, because you have set your mind to the fact that you want to be a generalist. So I would say that, I may be wrong, but the way I see it is you look at a particular area where you want to be seen as being an authority in, if you want to be a specialist. And then through that, as you grow yourself, either with a service company or an operator, with the service companies like Fifi mentioned before, you are given specific product lines where your expertise has to show in those product lines for the clients. On the other hand, with the operating companies, depending on which companies that you work with, even with the operating companies, we have what you call subject matter experts. And these subject matter experts are specialists in specific areas. And like I put in the comments there, even in drilling engineering, you have people who will be specialized in, for instance, drill string. Others will be specialized in casing. Others will be specialized in drilling fluids. Others will be specialized in cementing, but the drilling engineer becomes a generalist, working with all these specialists in all these areas to try and put together a program. So a drilling engineer, by say, can be a generalist, whereas there are other drilling engineers who are also specialized in specific areas, like Fifi mentioned, measurement while drilling or logging while drilling. So becoming a generalist will be defined most of the time in the early stages of your career by where you find yourself, whether working for an operator, whether working for a service company. And then as you build the experience, if you want to go out by yourself, then you can either decide that, okay, now I want to be in a position where, you know, I can be useful in management, or I can be useful in a specific technical area, and therefore, so don't put in your mind that you want to become a generalist and then not allow yourself the benefit of being useful right from the beginning to whichever companies. That's the contribution that I want to give. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Atu Edu. Thank you so much. Please, is there any question that somebody would like to ask? Any question? Okay. So if there's no question, I believe we all understood what speakers said. Or any contribution?
I mean, and Donna, if you are, I have a last contribution when you're done.
Okay. Please, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to speak as from coming from an employer's perspective and the experiences that I've had. So since this is for it's more of a career development and young professionals, I think one of the other things we should actually focus on as young professionals is our attitude. Our attitude to work and our attitude to our various roles, because what I've learned, and when I'm recruiting now and I'm in interview sessions and I'm working with people, it is almost natural that when you go out of school, you are being given fundamental tools, and whoever you turn out to be, there will be multiple different variables to it. It depends on who you meet. It depends your immediate boss. It could even depend on where you find yourself working, okay? And so one simple defining factor is your attitude to work. The way you relate with the people you work with. And if you show a demonstration that you can take more responsibility and are willing to work, this is actually, I'll call one unique identifier across all workplaces. Anybody that has a good attitude to work is identified and is given more roles and responsibilities, and even sometimes even in the interview room. So I'll share this so that you focus on your attitude towards work, your attitude towards the people you work with, the teams you are in, and then be more responsive and put yourself out there to be able to take more responsibilities if you can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Gilbert. Okay, Miss Bell Ekwam, can you please unmute yourself and speak? Miss Bell Ekwam. Hello, Miss Bell. Okay. Hello. I think you're having some network challenges. So, Mr. Theophilus Opoku, please, are you there?
Yes, please, I'm here.
If you can make a contribution or ask your question.
Okay, and thank you very much. Thank you, Engineer Gilbert and Engineer Fifi, for your insights on the topic. Please, I have a question. So, with our industry changing over time, and with the inclusion of AI impacting our workforce and everything, do you believe specialization or generalizing will be more sustainable in the future or in the long term? So that's why I want to ask to Engineer Gilbert and Engineer Fifi. Do you believe specialization or generalization will be more sustainable in the long term?
Engineer Gilbert.
Okay, I can share my thoughts. I believe that the use of AI is an enabler and an enhancer. And I think we've been in various forums where we do acknowledge that irrespective of how AI or technology advances, domain knowledge, and when I mean domain knowledge, pure subject matter from a human perspective will be needed. So AI will only enhance what you are doing. So, I mean, how does AI enhance the reservoir models and the simulations that you run? I don't think that the model will run itself. It still takes a human intervention to be able to do that. That's a general statement. It will help both specialists and generalists. I think that if there should be any bias, this is a controversial one, but I think that if there should be any bias, the generalist role sometimes requires so many multivariable inputs such that, I mean, if you probably are looking at a specialist result that you get the results, but once you are talking about generalist, you are talking to too many different functions that I think it may be quite very difficult to think that AI can quickly give you the multivariable results that you should give without the human interface. Okay. Generally, I think services where or works where you need some level of, I'll use it, empathy, some level of human intervention, more than when you can just set a process, you set a program, and then you set the program to get a result. I mean, we will have those services where you have more human interface being still relevant than services where you can just program them and then churn out results. You understand me? So, for example, will the role of, you like using reservoir, will the role of maybe a reservoir manager be more relevant than having many more reservoir specialists if we are using AI? I think it will be very easy to set up a different program using AI to get a different perspective of a reservoir model that you can get from 3 or 4 different reservoir engineers. But to be able to make that techno-economic or the technical and economic decision, okay, by speaking to the reservoir production people, speaking to the commercial people, speaking to finance, and looking at the final investment decision of a particular project, I think you still would need the relevance of maybe more of the generalist. I mean, this may be controversial, but I dare say that this may be a way to put at it from my perspective. Thank you. It will be good to hear Uncle Atuedu on this one, though. Thanks.
What I have to say, can you hear me, Donna?
Yes, please, we can hear you.
Yes, so what I have to say here is that, as Gilbert stated, this AI thing is an enabler. Think of it like, is it in chemistry, is it enzymes or so? They speed up some reactions, but I don't think it actually replaces the chemicals or the components that are actually in it totally. So the big idea is, I mean, even when it comes to the drilling point of view, some of the drilling reports or the end of war reports, you have some companies using AI doing it, but the AI doesn't churn out 100% drilling reports. The report that comes may be give and take about 60, 70% done, but you still need the one who understands the area or who knows that scope to still go through and make sure that he fine-tunes whatever has to be done. So I believe that whether specialist or generalist, the AI will just help both whether specialist or generalist to undertake whatever activity they want to undertake, but not completely replace it.
Yeah. Hello. Can I add to what Fifi and
Yes.
yeah. I think both Fifi and Gilbert have given the idea that the AI is an enabler. AI at this stage in the industry is still learning. So I need to take a lot of data sets for it to be able to learn to the stage where it's able to complement the judgment of a human being. So I mean, it can analyze data far faster than most human beings can do. But then when it comes to the issue of judgment, and like Gilbert rightly put it, if you have to make a final investment decision, that comes to human judgment. And the AI at this stage is not sentient enough to be able to make that decision. The decision comes to the human being. So I would say that at this stage in the development of AI within the industry and even in other industries, it hasn't gotten to the stage where it's sentient enough to be able to make the kind of judgments that human beings will be able to make. So I don't think that is going to be an issue for at least in the foreseeable future during our lifetimes to be concerned about it. You should rather see it as something that will aid you in doing your job more effectively. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Theophilus, I believe you are all right now.
Yes, please, but I have another question for Engineer Fifi.
Okay, please go ahead.
Engineer Fifi, please, have you ever find yourself in a situation where your specialized skills were insufficient? If so, how did you overcome it? And also, given your expertise in an area, how do you collaborate with other professionals from different disciplines?
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Go forward, no. We analysis pa. Sika umutwa yen.
There's who is talking?
Should I make a CBA?
Hello.
Please, you can hear you now.
Okay. Yes. So Theophilus, one thing is that you should know that the industry is a continuous learning process, right? As I say, education never ends until you die. So you can be a subject matter expert, but you may sometimes come across things that are new to you or that you are yet to encounter, right? So one thing you need to know is that, yes, you are a subject matter expert in this kind of area. You have built some years of experience. Even those who have 30 years experience, sometimes we come across things that are new one way or the other. It's like, you see, when you build, when you buy an equipment, they put a manual in. Some of these manuals have troubleshooting on it. So some of these example troubleshooting skills, sorry, knowledge that they add to it. When you start using the manual, something new may come up that you have to even call the manufacturer that this and this is what happened. Why? Then sometimes the manufacturer have to tell you that I'll get back to you. Or sometimes some of these things are new. So being a subject matter expert doesn't mean that you wouldn't have some of these things, which do comes up within as I continue working. As I said, it's a continuous learning process. And the second part, which is looking at being in a team that I think, I don't know, Donna, did you get the second part?
Theophilus.
Hello.
Can you
Yeah, the second part. What was the second part?
Yeah, yes, sir. Okay, please. I was saying that given your expertise in an area, how do you collaborate with other professionals from different disciplines?
Yeah, so my initial comment, I touched on where I work currently, that we normally work in teams. So for example, the commission is in charge of reviewing, for example, a plan of development and advising the minister on that. So a plan of development doesn't come divided like the drilling engineers, this is your scope. The reservoir engineers, this is your scope. the facility here, this is your scope. It comes in a pack, right? So when it comes, we all look at the document from our area of expertise. Then we meet as a team to discuss it, because when the comments are leaving, they don't live in like the drilling engineers in commission says this, there is a what says this. It all goes in a pack, because a plan of development is for a field. And looking at that big field that you're looking at, there are different aspects of it that comes together in terms of the subsurface, the geoscience, and even the local content. Because when you are looking at developing a field, you have to look at how it will impact on local content, because of we are the regulator, right? So not just looking at the drilling and the technical and all those stuff alone, but look at the financial and economics impact, as well as the local content aspect. So it's actually good to be, as I stated earlier, it's good to be a subject matter expert, but it's also great to work in a team, because it also builds up your knowledge in other sectors as well.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Theophilus, please, is there anything you'd like to ask?
I'm okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. So please, somebody is asking that how can a new professionals focus, perform well, and improve on their specialty interest while trying to upskill in order to stay up to the date with the changing trends in the industry? I'm taking the question again. How can new professionals focus, perform well, and improve on their specialty interest while trying to upskill in order to stay up to date with the changing trends in the industry? So, if any of you can answer, Engineer Fifi or Engineer Gilbert.
I'm not sure if the question is quite clear. I may want to interpret it the way it is, but can you come again? How would a young professional stay relevant with the current industry trends and what?
Yes. Basically, that's what she's asking.
Okay. I think I made a case one of the SPE conference when it comes to being versatile and adapting, which I summarized to say that from the Nokia former CEO that said we didn't do anything wrong, but we lost. So I would say that it's very important just to, in your, I think Mr. Edu said that, build your discipline. Whilst you are building your discipline as a young professional, it helps at that moment to have a very narrow focus, okay? And let's call it, you are quite clear in what you are doing. And so if you are clearer, you are able to get the knowledge that is required for your area of expertise. Generally, industry trends, normal information of what is happening in the industry is okay. But if we want to talk about your core work of expertise, once you are focused, it's easy to know what is the latest technology happening with MWD, with directional drilling, with reservoir production. What is the latest software that we have? I mean, what are the advances in simulation with reservoir simulation, with drilling? What are we getting currently with the latest tools that we have? If you're a drilling engineer or you're a wireline, the fact that you are focused to your good area of expertise reduces, I'll call it, the noise, okay? That will help you keep very abreast with knowledge on your specialty. The general information you can get, but I would say that it may be very detrimental if at a young stage, whilst you're a very young professional, you are trying to build that knowledge, subject matter expert in your field, and then you are trying to get a lot of industry information, okay, to maybe specialized. You want to do supply chain very well. You want to do MWD very well. You want to do drilling well. You want to be a subject matter in reservoir engineering and also know all the trends to the top detail. I dare say that it gives you a little bit of lack of focus as a young professional. Focus where you are working, get the latest information in those trends to help you function very well and build a sense of authority and a confidence in your area where you work with. Once you are gaining the confidence and the endorsement, you will broaden your knowledge. It will come naturally for you to look at the breadth of knowledge. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Gilbert. I think I'll touch on this bit a bit more because you've answered it excellently. And then for the person who asked the question, so when you start your career, one of the things you'd realize is that you will get pushed in certain directions that you probably might think that is not your interest or is not something that you fancy doing. But what you need to understand is that you need to know that in the future, that might come in handy. So I'll use myself as an example. So when I started off my career, I started off in well test. So I was a well test operator. I was in the field. I was doing the manual work and everything. Then when I got good at it, I got moved into engineering in the office where you do the design and everything. After that, I got moved into subsea. Because of, if you're able to show the company that you have the capacity to handle what you are given, and that broader specialty now ends up turning you into some kind of like more like a generalist. So that's what Uncle Ato explained very well. So I also spent some time in business development as well to understand how the contracts and everything work, because as an engineer, we need to go out bid for contracts as from the service company side, get the contracts and then execute the contract. So with all these bit of experiences over the years, when I moved into my new role with an operator that looks after the whole bigger scope of a drilling or well, like a well drilling campaign, where you look after the drilling side, you look after the completion side, you look after the subsea side, you might look like a generalist in that space, but as Fifi and Uncle Ato and then Gilbert have touched on, your experience over the years come in handy. So you might probably not be the whole deeper expert in MWD or deeper expert in the geology side of things, but because of the experience and working in the team over the years, you have the knowledge to be able to make informed decisions on a project. So depending on where you find yourself in your career, don't be broken in your spirit. Take it as an opportunity to learn, because what I've seen over my years of working is that they come in handy. They will come in handy. And when you get there was a question that was asked about the whole bit of if you're a specialist, so you have to work with different teams and all that. When you go to a meeting with all these other experts in the meeting, when they talk, listen. When they talk, listen. And by listening, you learn. And when you learn, you build upon your knowledge over the years. And that knowledge over the years, and a clear example is Gilbert. Gilbert has gone through the stages of it. Now he owns his own company. I'm sure, Gilbert, you go for meetings and you have your finance guys talking, you have your tax guy talking, you have your legal guy talking, you have everybody talking. And over the years, spending time with all of them, you will now understand how the dynamics of everything works. So being the big boss at the top, you're able to make a decision which covers everybody, because now you have the knowledge from all the experts that have been talking. So don't worry about the early stages of your career and where you find yourself. Make the most of it. And if you work in a good company, when they realize that you are good at what you do, they would expand your scope and they would get you to do more in that space. And that what makes you a very good generalist when you get to that stage of your career, with years and years of experience in that regard. Okay?
Donna, let me just add a bit here, which is actually not looking at just expanding your technical knowledge, but most importantly, which I've actually seen with a lot of young professionals, they tend to concentrate too much on the technical and leave what is termed as soft skills. You tend to have people who are carrying something here and there, doing all the work, and when you just ask them to put it into a report format, it becomes a problem. When you ask them to send an email, it's a problem. When you ask them to make a presentation or even whatever they've done, it's a problem. So my little advice for young professionals, including myself, is that you may not find yourself in a company that will actually look at building your soft skills, but you as the individual needs to find a way to build your own soft skills. And I think SP provides such platforms, it provides such training, such presentations, and such opportunities. So please, if you're a YP or you're about graduating school or you're a student, know that it is not all about just building how to drill a well alone, or learning how to drill a well alone, or learning how to run wireline alone. Try and bring in the soft skills, because that will actually help you as you progress in your career.
Okay, thank you so much. So the next question is, what are some values and skills recruiters in the oil and gas companies look out for what do they look out for in recruiting young engineers? What are some values and skills recruiters in the oil and gas companies look out for in recruiting young engineers? Engineer.
Gilbert, Gilbert is a recruiter, so I'm not there yet.
Okay, Engineer Gilbert.
I think I tried to touch these earlier on as a just sort of an additional comment. The truth be told, if it's entry level, I think they are different. If it's entry level, when I'm having an interview, normally what I'm looking at is what is the attitude of the person towards work. So based on how the person is speaking, maybe I may be able to ascertain the confidence level. We may get it right, we may get it wrong. But on the entry level, I don't think that I'm expecting that the person is coming right out of school and then has all the skill sets. So I may be looking at very soft areas of how is the person articulating his words in terms of clarity of thoughts on answering the questions. I may be also looking at the confidence of the person when the person is in the interview. Then sometimes on the subject matter expert, it may be key on, you may not have the practical skills, but on the fundamental domain knowledge, if you do or understand the ability to express yourself, it is very key. Okay, that's for the entry level. If you're a young professional, truth be told, all I'm looking for is practicality. In the interview, normally I try to sense for what, when people speak, some people go and read a lot, they'll go and try to understand how things are happening. But if you truly understand what you are doing, it becomes more of a conversation. Okay, so I look out for ability to be quite comfortable in the area of the discussion or the knowledge area that we are having. I would also entreat people to be very earnest. Sometimes there's something called that the measure of authenticity. If you are very authentic in your communication, okay, we may be able to sense that. For example, if I sit with you in I'm recruiting you, and maybe let's say you're in an area of production, or it's reservoir engineering, and you are talking to me and you are giving me, for example, ChatGPT answers, I'll know because I've worked before in that area. So it's good for me to know that, okay, maybe I've not done this. Let's be authentic. I've not reached here, but this is what I know about this particular field. Okay. Most at times, entry level, we focus on how is the person looking, what is the confidence that the person is, how is the person, the confidence of how is articulating his views, whether he understands the question, and how close to the question is his answers. Then we know that, okay, this is a material that we can be able to build on. And also the subject matter area. We definitely know that if you are coming in, you do not or have not actually practiced this before. So the least you can be able to tell me is based on the knowledge or based on your internship or based on the industry expertise that you've had, whether through an national service or try to be very practicable with your responses. And then we can take you and then be able to train you. Of course, try to look good. And please, for all intents and purposes, be confident enough to ask the questions or ask clarity on what the intent of the question is. So be very, very open. If you don't understand it, please reach out to the person interviewing. Is this what you mean? Is this what is this about? Because recruiters are actually interested in trying to find out what is your fundamental knowledge, especially on entry level. They are not looking for experience. For experience, of course, that one, even if we are discussing, we can sense that you've done this or not, no matter how you go and read about it. If you don't have the confidence to discuss it, it will be sensed. I hope that helps.
Yes, please. Thank you so much. So this is the last question I'm taking. Somebody wants to ask, what career pathway can an electrical engineer graduate with 5 years of experience in engineering maintenance take if the interest is in the upstream or offshore sector in the oil and gas? Should I take the question again, please? Hello. Engineer,
Is this to me?
anybody can answer.
Yeah, I'll let you take this one first. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. So if I get a question right, what the person is trying to say that he has 5 years of experience in engineering maintenance and want to know what is ahead of him. I don't know if I understand if that's the explanation or the way I'm getting the question.
He wants to know that him having 5 years experience in engineering maintenance, like what he has interest in the upstream or the upstream sector.
Yeah.
Oil and gas.
So I mean, sometimes when we say the upstream sector, people sometimes, I remember we've had a lot of conversation. I've done quite a number of presentations, even at UMAT, that what the presentation was trying to look at, the role every engineer has to play. The oil and gas sector is not just for those who have done oil and gas engineering or oil and gas or petroleum engineering. There are quite, for example, if you go to the FPSO now, there are quite a lot of electrical and instrumentation guys there doing so much. Their work is a lot, especially when it comes to these cable things and the automation and how the systems are programmed, how the cables are connected and all those sort of things. So I would say generally, yes, he has a chance in the oil and gas industry because electrical engineers are really needed in the industry because of their role that they play. It's not just petroleum, those who did petroleum or something. So I think what's the name? Maxwell. If you want to pick up a career in the oil and gas industry, yeah, you're welcome. I mean, you have a lot of role, you have things to do. And since Gilbert will be added Gilbert have some services that maybe require electrical engineers. So I will leave that one up to him.
Okay.
5 years electrical experience.
Yes, please.
And so he's asking for where he can work.
Yes, please.
Okay. So I think electrical engineering, I can speak some directly. It's a very good background for a lot of jobs. So is he willing to enter into, how do you call it, entry level? I think almost every, even wireline, I'm sure they look at electrical courses. But in terms of my area, I think he could be a cathodic protection specialist, cathodic protection. There's something also called EX, electrical explosion, or ETEX inspection. So they go on facilities to be able to ensure that electrical installations are sort of insulated from, or they do not have exposure to sparks. That's possible. But I think on a broad base, what I can say that if he's willing and definitely able, I don't know where he's working with, but also in terms of our services in non-destructive testing, once you have the basis of understanding electric pulses, you're understanding how waves work. Most of my services are non-destructive testing. They are based on ultrasonic waves, which electrical engineers know. It's more about reading pulses that are sent into facilities and they are being read. So from the area of inspections, he can work strongly there. Cathodic protection from our suite of services is some area that you can look at. Electrical engineering in terms of maintenance on any of the facilities that we have, he can be able to have an opportunity to go there. If he's not casting his ways, truth be told, I think electrical engineering has a broad base to be able to move or be trained in any of most of the service lines in Halliburton. Maybe I may be far reaching. There are more people with this, but most of the service lines use electrical engineering as a basis to be trained. In the service, Schlumberger, Baker Hughes, and Halliburton, I think most of the services are based on a fundamental knowledge of electrical engineering. So he could actually look at those service lines. Yes.
Yeah, can I add to what Gilbert and Fifi have said? This goes to all the young professionals as well as graduates. The main thing is when you're, for instance, you are without a job, you're looking for a job. You need to try and identify the companies that have or that use the areas that you have been trained in from the university, for instance. So in the case of Maxwell, for instance, with the electrical engineering maintenance, Gilbert has correctly mentioned some of the areas where he can fit in. But you need to also look at identifying which companies are involved in the oil and gas industry that use your skill set. So Fifi gave the example of the FPSO. There are a lot of companies providing electrical works and maintenance on the FPSO. There are a lot of companies also, not on offshore, but onshore, that use the skills of electrical engineers also in the upstream industry. And like Gilbert rightly mentioned with the NDE areas where, you look at cathodic protection and things like that. Now, the likes of Schlumberger, Baker, Halliburton, yes, wireline is mostly relating to electrical cables that send signals to the tools downhole that your skill set can be used, but you need to be able to allow yourself to be trained. And like Gilbert rightly said, are you ready to go and then start from the beginning? And that is something that you need to keep in mind. When you come as a graduate and you're going for a job, you need to realize that whichever that company that you are going to work with is going to have to train you in the areas that they want you to support them with. So don't keep yourself in a situation where you say, I'm an electrical maintenance person, and therefore something that is not related to electrical maintenance that is not something that you're going to look at. You need to open yourself to be ready for training by any of the companies. So first, I would say try and identify the companies, both offshore on the FPSOs and then onshore as well, and then see if you can approach them to see if they will be ready to give you the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that was the last question we had. Stephen, please, can you move to the next slide? Stephen. Okay, so thank you so much, our participants and our esteemed panelists. We are much grateful that you delivered so well. Okay, okay, so our next program is Understanding Energy, Sustainability and its Career Path. It is hopefully coming next year, and we'd like everyone to join because it promises to be an engaging program. So we'll be taking feedback from our participants in order to improve on our next program. There's a link in the chat box. You can just open and text your feedback in it, and we'll be glad to accept it. Okay, we'll take the vote of thanks from Miss Tracy Mensah. Miss Tracy Mensah, please, are you on the line? Hello, Miss Tracy. Okay, so since she's not around, I would like to call Mr. Stephen to give the vote of thanks. Hello, Stephen.
Right, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, so all too soon, we have come to the end of this much anticipated webinar, and it has been one insightful webinar, and I have learned a lot. First and foremost, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished speakers, Engineer Asase, Gilbert Asase, and Engineer Fifi Otu. We are so much grateful to you for sharing your experiences, your perspectives, and your wisdom. Your insights have not only enlightened us, but it has as well inspired us to think critically on our career path as whether we are going to be specialists or generalists. I, for one, I have made a decision, and from 2025, I know I'm going to make better strides in my career. Donna, you did so well as being a moderator, and we are so grateful to you for being on board. And this webinar wouldn't have been successful without you, the participants. We are so much grateful to you for your engagement, your presence, your questions, and your contributions. Mr. Atu Edu, Uncle Atu, we are so grateful for your presence. It's such an honor to have you here. And we say next time we would want to have you again on board. We acknowledge all your efforts, and we are grateful to all the organizing team, Daniel Opon, and all the members of the Career Guide and Outreach Committee. We say thank you so much. We are looking forward to having the next events in a grand style. Hopefully, we will meet tomorrow at the Aquinas Park for the Energy Games. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Stephen. So we are expecting all of you to be at the Energy Social End of Year SP Networking event. Please do not miss this because it's going to be much fun and awesome. Again, thank you so much, our panelists and our participants. We look forward in seeing you in our next meeting. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This brings us to the end of the meeting. Do have a nice day. Bye.